So let's jump over to this. This is from the Fraser Institute again. This is a little bit of an older one, but I hadn't actually heard it out of Pierre's mouth yet. Now he's actually campaigning on it now that the campaign has started. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this should wrap up the Indigenous vote in Canada. I don't think that there's anything the Liberals can do other than outright stealing it. And I made a point to make sure I sent this out to my Indigenous Opinions mailing list today to make sure that they understand the implications of this. So here's how First Nations can access a reliable source of revenue. So I'll just read this article, and now he has come out and officially announced it today, and a couple chiefs have already commented on it. So according to Pierre Poilievre, a conservative government would permit First Nations to directly receive tax revenues from resource development on their ancestral territories. Political leaders of all parties should commit to such direct taxation because time is short. So basically, I think what they're proposing is a 50% split. So if you have a company on Treaty 9 land, then Treaty 9 gets 50% of the money, and their 50% goes to the federal government.
But no. But it's tax money, though. It's not revenue. That's what I don't understand. Why wouldn't it be revenue?
Tax money. No, it should be. Well, it can be revenue if they want to start a company that extracts oil, or you only get the revenue if you do the work. So
no, but it's not revenue. It's revenue, but it's based on taxes.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I'm saying. If you want the revenue from a mine, you got to build the fucking mine. You can't be giving Indians free mines. That's not right. I'm
just saying a percentage, like maybe a 10% royalty.
The taxes is good enough. They're getting taxed at 40%. So
we don't want taxes at all. I mean, it kind of solidifies the tax system, which
the taxes aren't going anywhere, dude. I mean,
it might be down there. I mean, what if Trump comes in and says, "Oh, you're going to get 50% of the tax back. That's it. Come down here, you get 50% of the complete revenue."
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. They're not going to cut the taxes.
What I'm saying is, like, what if Orange Man Bad does?
Well, that doesn't matter because the difference between what we're talking about here is that you can't just make fucking gold in the States.
I mean, sucking up.
We're talking about pulling up the stuff that we've got tons of in Ontario and the Canadian Shield, in Saskatchewan and Alberta. It's oil and natural gas. In Ontario, it's all kinds of lithium. It's all kinds of gold. It's all kinds of uranium's in Saskatchewan most. Yes. So now, like I say, if natives want to make a gold company mine and they want to get the revenue, that's fine. But now instead of the tax going to the government and the government taking all that tax and then putting it on the dole to the Indian reserves, and you have to jump through these hoops and you have to do this and you have to do that, try and get the grants. And now you're on the thumb of the government. So you can only do this, that, and the other. What are you going to do with the money? We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Once these nations can start directly getting that tax money, it cuts out all this sort of subservience that you need to have right now. Now you don't need to, it really starts to open the pathway for, now you've got money coming in for lawyers. Now you get all sorts of different things can start to take place under this model. So faced with the prospect of tariffs and other, I get what you mean. No taxes would be great for anyone, but that's not,
I'm not even saying no taxes, but just based it on revenue, not just taking taxes away, right? That's all.
It should be based on revenue. I'm assuming it would be based
on taxes will be based on revenue, but then they're taking 50% of those taxes back, which is good. I like the idea, but I just not sure if I like it based on taxes.
I mean, the preference would be that the Indian Act is over and the Indians own certain sections of land, and it's up to them to. Yeah. But that's obviously where I'd like to see things get. But that's not on the table right now. That's not close. This is the closest step in this direction that Indians have seen in probably 150 years. So Canada must build new energy infrastructure, mine critical minerals, and diversify trade. First Nations participation is critical in these plans, but too often, proposed infrastructure and resource projects on their territories become mired in lengthy negotiations that benefit only bureaucrats and lawyers. The First Nations Resource Charge, the FNRC, a brainchild of the First Nations Tax Commission, could help cut through some of that red tape. Currently, First Nations, the federal government, and businesses negotiate agreements through a variety of mechanisms that establish the financial, environmental, and cultural terms for a proposed development. As part of any agreement, Ottawa collects tax revenue from the project, then remits a portion of that revenue to the First Nation. The process is bureaucratic, time-consuming, and paternalistic. Under one version of the proposed charge, the First Nation would directly collect a portion of the federal corporate tax from the developer. The federal government, in turn, would issue the corporation an equivalent tax credit. In effect, Ottawa would transfer tax points to First Nations. The resource charge doesn't mean we won't say no to bad projects where the costs to us are too high, said Chief Darren Blaney of BC's Hamalco First Nation when the Conservatives first laid out the proposal last year. It could mean, however, that good projects happen faster. This is what we all want. Olivier referenced the proposed tax transfer in his February 15th rally. He then vowed to remove regulatory obstacles to fast-track resource development projects. We will incentivize Indigenous leaders to support these projects by letting companies pay a share of their federal corporate taxes to local First Nations. I want First Nations people of Canada to be the richest people in the world. The First Nations Tax Commission first came up with the idea. Poilievre's federal Conservatives are the first political party to embrace it, but there's no reason why support for resource charges could not be bipartisan. Mark Carney, the front-running candidate to succeed Justin Trudeau as Liberal leader and Prime Minister, has vowed to use all the powers of the federal government to accelerate the major projects that we need. That said, resistance has already emerged. Most Indigenous leaders would see right through, because we've been around that corner a few times. Don Martin Hill, Professor Emeritus of Indigenous Studies at McMaster University, told the Canadian Press, selling your soul to have what other Canadians have, which is access to clean drinking water. See, this is, this guy's actually blocked me on Twitter because he's a woke fake Indian, in my opinion, but I don't want to get into it here. But Professor Martin Hill inadvertently makes the case for the FNRC. Municipal governments raise funds by taxing the property of individuals and businesses and using the revenue to, among other things, provide clean drinking water. A First Nation that taxed a business operating on its territory and used the revenue to provide clean drinking water for people on reserve would simply be doing what governments are supposed to do, and it would be doing for itself, which is better than having the fucking government do it in the first place. Like I say, my best solution would be to give them the land, to negotiate the land deals and get that just out of the way. Any government committed to implementing the FNRC should convene a working group of First Nations leaders, private sector executives, and government officials to work out a framework agreement. If the Conservatives win the next election, a working group could be part of a task force on tax reform that Poilievre said he intends to establish. The FRNC would be voluntary. Communities could opt in or opt out. Provincial governments might also participate, sharing a portion of their taxes with First Nations. If it works, the charge could speed up the approval of lumber, mining, pipelines, and other resource-related projects on the traditional lands of First Nations. So, I mean, that's the most talk we've got on anything on that front in an awful long time.
Yeah, that's good. Awesome.